What about African Americans in the Army?
African Americans made up, there were about 200,000 black men served in what were called United States Colored Troops Units, USCT.
It was on the Union side.
Yes. Okay, let's just dispense with the hallucination that there were a lot of black men in the Confederate Army. That is such total ridiculous nonsense,
Mhm.
utterly unsupported by any evidence that anyone would consider credible. This whole notion of, I mean, it's preposterous. And I'm really managing my language right here. I'm
Yeah,
not saying what I really think it is. Just I've seen estimates of as high as 100,000 black men in the Confederate
not
Army.
true.
Really, really, no.
Yeah.
Were there black men with the Confederate armies? Yes, they're enslaved black men who are doing all kinds of non-military things in the Army to free more white men to shoulder muskets and shoot at Yankees.
Mhm.
That's what's going on in the Confederate Army. There are a lot of black men around Union armies before they became soldiers as well. But there are these 200,000 black men joined the military service during the war. They're in the Navy and in the Army. They'd always been in the Navy, the U.S. Navy. And they're not segregated in the Navy in the way that they can be in the Army. They're just in black. You have integrated crews
Mhm.
on naval vessels, although they're separated in some ways, but there have always been black sailors in the Navy. The Army, no, it's a big thing to put black men in uniform. And for a Confederate, it's bad enough if you announce emancipation, but then you start arming black men. That to Confederates is urging a widespread slave rebellion, basically.
Black regiments on the Union side was enraging the Confederate side.
Yes, and they have white officers overwhelmingly. There are a few black officers, but overwhelmingly, the USCT units have white officers leading them.
But symbolically, that is a really powerful thing, right?
It's hard for modern Americans to understand just how jarring that would be to a Confederate. That not only would you have enslaved people no longer enslaved, but you would have the men in uniforms carrying muskets.
So you, as a historian, you've looked at every layer of this, including diaries, and
Mhm.
what was motivating? What was going through the minds of African Americans who are fighting for the Union side?
I think what you would expect is going. I mean, they would talk about union occasionally, but what that means to them, it's a union without slavery. They have the most, of all the people who can have a direct impact on what's going on versus slavery, there's nothing more direct than picking up a musket and firing at the people who are defending a slavery-based society. And at the same time, you are not only doing that, you are also establishing an unimpeachable claim to citizenship. The whole point of a citizen soldier is that you do your bit for the nation that's helping you, and the nation does these things for you. Well, okay, if I'm picking up and risking my life with a musket in my hand, are you going to tell me I can't vote after I do? I thought that's the whole point of this. I'm protecting the right to vote by doing my citizen's role as a soldier. And that was a big debate in Congress.
Mhm.
That really changed the equation of that debate as well. How are you going to treat people after they've served in United States units? Can you tell them they can't vote? You're not going to give the vote to them?
How many people in the black regiments, but also, folks like Frederick Douglass, saw that black Americans and white Americans should have equal rights?
Well, Douglass saw that, of course. But even within their context, their notion of equal rights is that doesn't mean that black women are going to vote, just like for white people, it didn't mean white women would vote. But in terms of the context of the time, yes, equal rights should come out of this. Abolishing slavery is the first step of this. It's not the end game. The end game is equal rights for everybody.
Did many people see that?
No, a tiny percentage of people saw that. There's a notion that's very common that somehow the white North turned its back on black people after the war, and it should have tried harder during Reconstruction to force the white South to convey full equal rights to black people. The assumption there is simply flawed. Most white people in the North didn't believe that. They believed first save the Union, and yes, we'll need to kill slavery as well. Those are the two things on the list. Check, we've done those. Full equal rights for black people is not on their list. And they were not willing to do the things that it would have taken to do that. including the white soldiers in uniforms who wanted out of the Army after the Confederacy surrendered, and said, well, now we need the Army to make the white South do the right thing vis-a-vis black people. They would have said, what are you talking about?
Mhm.
I signed on to do this. We did it. Send us home right now.
I think that's one of the lessons you learn from human history across the different places where slavery was abolished is abolishing slavery is not the end of a journey. It's the beginning of a
It's the
journey.
beginning.
And it sometimes quite often takes at least 100 years to go from that to something you would identify as equal rights. And then maybe even beyond that, there's a complicated story about, even outside of rights, just how society sees the different
There's a
people.
difference between the Great Society passed most of you got the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Fair Housing Act, you got all of this legislation that does a lot of the legal stuff, but it's what's in people's heads
Mhm.
that takes longer and is a more frustrating process.
Remains, as has appeared in human history, potential fuel for the division to rise up again.
Of course, and then people can exploit that. It's waiting to be exploited, and people exploit it.
This is something we do as humans. We like to otherize certain groups.
Good to have an enemy.
And the Civil War for our country is a story of this. It's so understanding the Civil War is in part extremely important for understanding the division, maybe the dormant division that's there.
Yes, and even before the war, there were notions about the other side that for a lot of people in the free states looking south, they said white Southerners are, because they're lazy, they're violent, they don't want to talk out a problem. They'll do what Preston Brooks did to Charles Sumner. They'll beat him over the head with a cane, and they're used to this because they have slavery and they're used to brutalizing black people. That's just how they approach things. And the white South would look north and say they don't care anything about family. They're all just lusting after money. All they care about is material things. They don't have any sense of kinship or family. That's what Yankees are. It doesn't even matter whether any of that is true, of course. There was a sense perceptions are more important than reality with human beings, and the perceptions on the eve of the Civil War were that the other side was different in a lot of ways. They also had profound commonalities. They had a common language, a common religion, a common history. These founding documents, all of that would pull people together, but they found ways to see differences and divided some of the churches. Protestant churches divided over slavery.
And many of these themes continue to today.